Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon and welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host Ahmed Nawaz with the latest roundup of sports today. Let's take a look at what we're discussing. First of all, we've got to talk about Test cricket, and that is giving us some results that need to be talked upon as well. When you talk about Australia versus New Zealand, Australia have not just dominated the white ball format, but they've dominated Test cricket as well, and they've dominated it in style. I need to talk about this brilliance because look, the fact is that, when you talk about a team like Australia, they only know one brand of cricket, and that is to dominate the opposition. Now, we can talk about the rhetoric of baseball or traditional forms of cricket, but Australia's evolution as a team has been phenomenal, especially under Pat Cummins. So I want to talk about this in detail. And also, when you talk about each and every player, they're contributing. It's not just about any individual, it's a team performance overall. And we need to, really understand the concept that is so successful over there. For New Zealand, it is, of course, disappointing. But I think it gives them an opportunity as well to just work on certain quarters, which can give them results in the future as well. After that, we, of course, move on. And we discuss further things on Sports Extra as well. And, of course, we need to talk about India's dominance. They've won the series 4-1 against England. They've completely annihilated the opposition. Even in this final test match, winning by more than an innings speaks volumes. And Rohit Sharma getting 100, much needed as well. Shubman Gill getting 100. Yadav taking 7 wickets was absolutely superb. So we'll talk about that in detail. Now, I read somewhere as well that people might not agree with the strategy of baseball, but some people are saying that at least it is still more successful than the traditional brand of cricket that England had been playing in India. I don't agree. I think what you need to understand is baseball is successful, but in phases. You can't expect to just, travel in the subcontinent and know one brand of cricket. India is not Pakistan. They won't make the same mistake as we did, make wickets that are completely out of runs, but they've been smart enough with their choices. What we did was put cement tracks in place almost, and we expected our batters to get runs, and that didn't happen. So I think it's a very clear strategy that we'll talk about. Then, of course, we move on and we discuss the greatest ever that we know right now playing, which is Jimmy Anderson, of course, the third ever bowler to come with 700 wickets now in that extreme league that we talk about, that extraordinary league of gentlemen. It is, of course, pertinent to mention that Shane Warne and Muthaiya Muralitharan are already there. Muralitharan taking 800 wickets and Shane getting 708. Anderson becoming the first fast bowler in that club as well, more than 700 wickets. And I think across when you talk about continent. So it is absolutely superb. And, I think what our bowlers need to understand is that it's okay to prioritize one format and stick to that. But then the board needs to realize that consistency needs to be given to those players who are prioritizing one format. So we'll talk about that as well. And then, of course, we move on to some more news on Sports Extra. Interestingly, we talk about the Saudi Pro League, where it's been carnage. And, of course, we're going to talk about the recent results as well. Who's won, who's lost. Al Ahly have been defeated, recently, but they've made a stunning comeback. And the decisive goal was, of course, scored by Firas Al Burkain, and he was absolutely superb on the day. So we'll talk about their victory against Al Taun in detail as well. Time now to introduce the guests. First of all, in studios, we've been joined by cricket commentator, broadcaster, presenter, and our sports expert, Asif Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, sir?
Walaikum assalam, Ahmed. I'm very well. Thank you very much.
We've also been joined by our regular platform. I think when we share with him, it's always interesting to talk about many things. But he's a man of many words. But these days, I think he's just letting the silence do it all. He's none other than sports expert, Mr. Malik Usman. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, sir?
Walaikum assalam. I'm doing fine.
You see, that smile says it all once again. He's got many tricks up his sleeves. We've also been joined by a sports expert, somebody who's not only enjoying cricket, but all sports, I think, these days are happening in his favor, be it predictions on and off the field. Everything is working for him. Mr. Rizwan Haider joins us. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, sir?
Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed. Thank you for having me.
A happy man you are. I can see it already. So I think a lot of things are going the way people want it. But, for some of us, of course, life is all about the grind, isn't it? We rise back from the ashes. That's what we can say. Asif, Australia versus New Zealand. Let's just start with that. It's always quality test cricket on offer when two top teams are playing. But I mean, you got to applaud Australia. They've realized that, New Zealand have that ability that they can, be there with grit and determination. And they did everything they can to not let that happen.
Well, I think praises for Alex Carey and Mitch Marsh, the way they led their team. And to be very honest, that congratulations to Australia. They played fantastic cricket. You were asking in your intro that what's the difference between baseball and textbook cricket. So that's the difference. That it does not mean that you have started the baseball cricket and you're playing unorthodox shot. It won't work you always. But the good thing is for the Australia that they have played textbook cricket. You see the innings of Alex Carey and Mitch Marsh, the way they 74 for 4, and the way Matt Henry was bowling in Sears, to be very honest, that was amazing and blasting piece of bowling from both of these bowlers. For me, once again, there was a little mistake from the New Zealanders. What was that? Actually, when Rachin Ravindra dropped the catch of Mitch Marsh, I think they have dropped the match as well. Mitch Marsh was on 29 when he dropped, and Mitch Marsh made 89. What does it mean? That was a very, very good partnership. But not only this is what we were discussing before the show with Rizwan Bhai as well, that if their middle order is not working, not performing up to the mark, don't worry. Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins are there, and they will help you with the bat. What the last innings partnership, if you see the Pat Cummins with Alex Carey, that was more than 50 runs, and the strike rate was around 80 or 90. So I think Australia is a complete team, and they got each and everything, and that's why we call them the World Test Champion. Either it's talk about the different formats, T20, they're the world champions. Talk about the 50 overs, they're the world champions. Talk about the Test cricket, they're the world champions, just because of their strong nerves and their cricket techniques. If you see the batting of the Mitch Marsh, he was playing aggressive cricket. He was just trying to accelerate, and he was trying to put pressure on the bowlers. So his economy, see his strike rate, it's around 100. And Alex Carey, the way he played, the way he faced different and difficult deliveries from Matt Henry and Sears, it's phenomenal. So all marks to Australia. We'll discuss about New Zealand in the next question.
Usman, what I'm intrigued about is the ability of certain players across the world to, I think, shift gears in formats. They don't need time to adjust, and Mitch Marsh is certainly one of those players who's equally good in the white ball format and in Test cricket as well. But Australia's got a list of players who are adapting and adjusting very quickly when you talk about, formats or playing across formats, and even when they're not available for national duty, if they're playing leagues as well, you see a different campaigner. How successful has that been for them as a team?
See, we are talking about Australia, and Australia has always been playing that so-called baseball. They have been playing aggressive cricket throughout, since I have been watching them at least, and that is some 20-30 years ago. So this is how they play, and they have Mitch Marsh, a player at number 6 who can take on the bowlers anytime. And he's someone who can float as well. You can bring him up the order if you have to up the ante, and that is what his role is. Some of the players who are in the side, they know their roles there, which is very clearly defined. And Australia is a team which is very clear about its plans and about the roles that they have given to the players as well. So you can see that Pat Cummins has been the one-day captain, their Test captain, but T20 captain is Mitchell Marsh. This is how they function as an organization, this Australian Cricket Board. So there is no much confusion about the roles and the way they are going to play their cricket, and that is one of the reasons why they are so confident. They are backed by their management, they are backed by their captain, and the 1 or 2 failures don't haunt them, and that is one of the reasons for their consistent success.
Well, I think that is very correctly put. I mean, if you talk about that system, and Rizwan, you've also talked about it many times, that, if you talk about the board as well, the composition of the Australian Cricket Board, if you talk about, some of the decisions, the policy especially, what we talk about, all of that is probably the right ingredient for success and dominance, and we don't see it in one particular format. We see it in T20, One-Day International, and even Test cricket.
Well, instead of going into details, I'll keep it very, very simple. Had Pat Cummins been the captain of Pakistan, would he been opening the bowling for Pakistan in all formats? Yes, he would have. In Australia, they know exactly what your role is. People are, individually, probably every player is selfish. Everybody wants to open the batting. Everybody wants to go at 1 down. Everybody wants to, bowl 20, 25 overs in a day. But you have to know what your role is. And the Australian board is very, very clear that this is your role. He is a good enough bowler with the new ball, but they've identified that Hazelwood will be opening the bowling. Mitch Starc is going to open the bowling. You're going to come in as first change. Similarly, in batting, if you have one good innings, Shaheen Afridi, upgrades himself to number 4 in the batting lineup, or Shadab Khan upgrades himself without realizing that league cricket is different and international cricket is different. But Pat Cummins, the role he played in the World Cup as number 6 or 7 when the double century happened, Maxwell, Even after that, he did not promote himself. Today, he played a wonderful knock of 32, but there was no intention of making sure that Carey gets his 100. Carey got 98, but it was all about winning the game, not individual
personal
records, and that is the reason for success for Australia.
Absolutely, Asif. I think that is something that is not a difficult model to implement. All you need to do is create that environment around a team where they realize that this is my role, this is what I should be playing for. The only importance will be given to cricket, which is of course for cricket for Australia, and of course there's going to be, I think the selection policy is also something that we need to talk about, that all the reliance of that selection policy relies on their domestic system.
Well, of course, and this is what we were discussing the other day as well, that the Babar Azam got some personal achievement. Yes, Babar Azam remained ODI number 1 still in the ICC ranking, if you see his test ranking, and then in T20 as well. But where is the Pakistan team? That we didn't qualify for the finals, we didn't qualify in T20, even we played finals but we didn't win. We didn't qualify for the semis in ODI World Cup, and once again where we are standing in test ranking. So I think that this is the difference between Australia and the rest of the teams, and especially when we talk about the Pakistan system, whether we don't give respect to the domestic cricket. And if you see their domestic structure, their domestic cricket, and let me take some examples. Matthew Hayden got his debut in 28 years of age. Talk about the Mike Hussey, that when he scored 10,000 domestic runs, then they've given him a chance, and then Mike Hussey came the Mr. Cricket. So I think that there's the difference, Ahmed, and no one is realizing that what is happening, that everyone is focusing the franchise cricket and putting all the money there, all the resources, and that's why Pakistan Test cricket is in decline. And talk about Alex Carey, that why he is performing so well. Right before this test match, his average is only 29. But after this match, where you played a match-winning innings on the crucial time, I think it will give a lot of confidence to Alex Carey, not Alex Carey. And this is the system where you produce players, you give chances to your players, and enough and ample opportunities, not 3-4 opportunities here. This is what happens in Pakistan. So that's why Australians are the number 1. And then the art of making partnerships. This is what Rizwan Bhai was saying, that the 32 Carey didn't complete his 100, but they got the victory and clean sweep against the New Zealand. This is what matters.
But interestingly, even we all of us have seen that struggle for Alex Carey, especially before this series as well, in the recent series that he's played, Usman. But there was no talk about dropping him. There was no negativity floated on various forms of media. I rarely see anything tweeted or quoted about Australian cricketers which is on the wrong side of the picture. I mean, you got to applaud the system over here.
See, one thing I repeatedly say is that if a player has been chosen to represent his national colours, then he should be given ample opportunities to prove himself. So once he is upgraded to the national team, that means he had deserved it, the call. So once he got the call, he should get the ample opportunities so that he can be a failure or a success for once and for all, if that is the case. But as far as Carey is concerned and the Australian cricket is concerned, Australia, for one thing, is that if they drop a player from a format, that doesn't mean he's out of the national team in all formats. So he's only dropped for that certain format. Carey was dropped from the playing 11 in the World Cup in 50 overs. That must have hit his confidence as well, but he was at least given the backing in Test cricket, and he has yet again proven that why he's so important to this Australian team in Test cricket. A left-hander, an attacking left-hand batsman at number 7, a good wicket-keeper, no doubt about it. Playing Test cricket in a manner away from home and leading his side to victory can only be done in Australian colours, because that is how they back their players. Coming to the other teams that face Australia, that is India, Pakistan, New Zealand or any other team, how much they back their players, that is for everybody to see, especially Pakistan. And now one such example is being shown by England as well. Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum, they are backing their players to go out and play without fear of failure, which is very important, and that is the reason they have been so successful of late. Although in Indian series they have lost it, but this is the mantra of their cricket, and that is what Australia has been doing for some time now.
Well, interestingly, Rizwan, we can also talk about, if a guy like Alex Carey, you can put him at any number and he'll perform, and that's what they've done with most of their players. Even after fluctuating their batting order, wherever they said that the team needs you on this position, they've been able to adapt to that position and perform over there as well. And it's only probably time when we see that from Steve Smith as well.
Well, Steve Smith has been given 4 test matches, hasn't been really really been successful as a test opener as yet. But he's such a great player. He averages 60 plus at number 3, 60 plus at number 4, 57 at number 5. So you know that there's talent in there, and he's somebody who once he commits himself to something, there's always a chance he's going to get through. And that is what's called belief in the system. The problem with Pakistan and the other teams, I think the only team which is actually competing with Australia right now is to some extent is India. If you see the last 3 test championships, they're the ones who've been competing in 2 finals, and they're online for the 3rd final versus Australia as well. So consistency, and these are the 2 teams along with England who play more than test matches per year. Pakistan and New Zealand are these days playing 6 or 7, 8 test matches, which is just not good enough. Similarly, Australian players only play in the IPL, and some of the players play in PSL or something else. But for Pakistan, our priority seems to be league cricket, franchise cricket. We are playing left, right, and center in the English, in the Big Bash, in the ILT, in the Dubai tournaments. That has to be restricted. I'm sorry. Did you find that funny or something?
No,
I wasn't going to say Multan League and Bangladesh League.
That was good. You've actually named a lot of leagues, and that is true. That is true.
Well, like I said, a very talented individual
No doubt
Rizwan
about
is,
it.
and when the universe is in your favor at this moment currently, then you're bound to enjoy the lighter side of life.
So why we laugh is that he remembers so many names of the leagues that Pakistani players are playing in.
That's unfortunate for me.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why amongst all of us, he's the one who
Who's
has
leading the
turned out,
charts.
who's leading the charts with Mr. Shirazi.
No,
So I
but-
think that's the reason.
Yeah,
Yes.
but if Rizwan Bhai is taking so many names of the different leagues, well, I would like to ask a question that then why even Pakistanis are not performing good in T20s? See, they aren't doing well. If you are saying that if they're not winning the ICC tournaments, if they're winning bilateral series, then okay. But we lost bilateral series against Afghanistan, against New Zealand. Now
Okay,
and now
I agree. That's a very, very valid question, and I'm very, very clear. In franchise cricket, every team, overseas players are 3 to 4. So that means you have 6 or 7 local players. In Pakistan, with 6 different teams, if you have 7 local players in the 11, that means 7 6 are 35 or 36 players.
7 6 are 42.
So, 42. Sorry, my maths is not good. So 42 players, that means that in international cricket only 11 of them are going to represent Pakistan, or 15 16, a squad of 15 16. So that dilutes the level of cricket. You just have 3 or 4 international players, and they themselves are also not of that international standard or great players. Similarly, in India, when you have 10 teams and 4 players are playing from international teams, the level of franchise cricket can never be as competitive as in India versus Pakistan or New Zealand versus England game. So that's the reason they're not performing.
Well, I agree with Rizwan to an extent that out of those 7, look, I've always been of the opinion that you need to support your local players, number one. What happens is, out of those 7 players, Rizwan is absolutely right, about 4 players are those who are not part of Pakistan's cricket structure anymore, or the PCB's decided that they won't be playing. So, you really got to consider your options. If you're playing players who are, then okay, for the gold and glitter or the glamour, it's okay. But to develop future stars, you just can't bench them. And that's where I've had a personal problem with a lot of these franchises who have been benching talented individuals from the under-19 of the domestic cricket who really deserved games. So I think, that is a very open and shut debate, you can call it. Yes, Rizwan.
Can I just add, Australian players play league cricket, first class cricket. Indian players play first class cricket and only IPL. Ours are not playing first class cricket, not even Babar, Rizwan, Shaheen, you name any test
Haris
cricketer
Rauf.
who's been a regular. Haris Rauf hasn't played any. He's played, I think, 9 first class games in his career. So you name anybody who's played regularly 4 or 5 even games in first class cricket. Until and unless you do that, you can never be of the same. Every English player plays county cricket.
But even that's not a threshold. I always say at least 20 games. At least 20
No, I'm
games.
just saying,
of first
I'm not talking about thresholds. I'm just saying, the board needs to ensure that they play first class cricket.
Absolutely. I think we've overhyped subject so much. Even just recently, people are now going to be talking about the trio of brothers as fast bowlers, but you still need a lot of grind for them to achieve that quality. It's just not going to be that easy. But interestingly, credit to to all our friend, of course, Mr. Sabir, Hussain for saying hi to the show and sending some very pertinent stats. And this is a very pertinent one. Usman Sabir Hussain mentions that Australia has chased 3 totals of 250 and above in the 4th innings in the last 15 years. 310 versus South Africa at Johannesburg, 282 versus England at Birmingham, 2011, 2023, and 281 versus New Zealand at Christchurch, this one in 2024. And Pat Cummins was at the crease in all of these 3 games.
Oh, this is amazing. I think, is it only 3 targets or 3 away games?
No,
because all these 3 targets are away from home.
Yes, particularly talking about chasing 3 totals of 250 plus in the 4th innings in the last 15 years.
Yeah, but Cummins is Cummins. Just remember the World Cup game also against Afghanistan. He's a fighter. And this is one of the reasons, since he made his debut for Australia, he was one of my most favorite players as well. And you can realize that he has that cricketing mind as well. And we can all talk about his batting capabilities. He's not a great renowned batsman for that matter. He's a good bowler, he's a good captain. But he grinds out the results. He gets stuck in, and he gives complete confidence to the batsman batting at the other end that this end is secure, you can score the runs. And this gives a lot of confidence to the batsman as well. So he can play his shots. Being a batsman and having a tail to work with becomes a problem in itself. But once you have a player who can dig in and just protect his wicket by hook or by crook with his body, with his bat, with his pads, that gives a lot of confidence to the batsman as well. So when the game is going deeper and deeper, and some players have this in them, that once the going gets tough, then the tough gets going, and they're mentally so powerful that they may not have that kind of talent, and they may be getting out cheaply, but in a crunch situation like this, they just get digged in, and they just carry on with the game, and in the end win it.
Well, absolutely. And interestingly, Asif, I think the math should be very simple, or the formula should be very simple, for me at least. If I can pick out one equation and not talk about many things that we're talking about, teams who don't worry about captaincy matters often tend to be the strongest teams in the world.
Well, that's why they're performing so well. Pat Cummins is Usman Bhai was absolutely perfect, that when he was talking about the personality like Pat Cummins, that not only with the ball, of course he is renowned with the ball, but what he is doing with the bat is phenomenal. You know that in difficult times when your team requires your efforts, requires your performances, you're doing with the bat. Yes, everyone knows what happened against Afghanistan when Glenn Maxwell was fighting, and who was standing with Glenn Maxwell? Of course, that was Pat Cummins, the skipper, and that was ODI cricket. Rizwan Bhai was mentioning that the T20 skipper Mitch Marsh, see, when he's playing Test cricket, he's match winner. When he's playing T20 cricket, he's match winner. This is how they build their players. This is how they develop their players and the abilities and the skills. So how you can play the 5-day cricket, how you're playing the T20 cricket. But I think when you do a comparison with the Pakistan, especially with the Australia, you will find that even we don't have a good skipper like Pat Cummins.
Well, Asif, your argument that you used to mention on previous shows as well. Look, the base then becomes that batters particularly who are technically strong, because we're talking about across formats, are doing well across formats right now. Simple as that, I think.
See Alex Carey, how he was playing against New Zealand. And, when 74 for 4, the pressure is on you. And when you went for the batting, you understand your role, that my role is to play till the end. That's it. You have one day, because that was the 4th day of the game. And Alex Carey, it didn't seem that he was playing cross the line, and he didn't try to improvise. He just played simple cricket, playing towards extra cover and playing towards long on, long off. I think that was so simple cricket. And whenever he was getting a loose delivery, he was converted a boundary, and he played so nicely towards square leg, fine leg area. So that's very simple. If you're technically okay, technically good, I think you can perform better. Why I talk about Pakistani cricketers, especially Fakhar Zaman, that we're giving you so many chances. And if you are giving us result only in 1-2 games out of 10, then I think it won't work. Why Asif Ali lost his temperament? Why Asif Ali is nowhere? Because he was just one-dimension player, and that was the mid-wicket area. And everyone knows that the statisticians are working with teams, and they're just telling that where is the loose area of this batter. So the Australian team, I've shared this earlier as well, that Pakistan have only one statistician. The Indian international team have 4 statisticians. So this is the difference. This is their priority. This is their mindset. And that's why these teams are performing so well.
Absolutely. Well, Usman's got a really interesting argument when we talk about stats in the world of cricket.
So I'm not. What I want to talk is, see, we are naming a couple of players for their playing style. Look at Mitchell Marsh, look at Virender Sehwag, Gilchrist, Chris Gayle, and you can name a few more.
Matthew Hayden.
Matthew Hayden,
yes.
they have one style of playing cricket, and that they have carried on in all the three formats. See, once you are backing your player, you have to be very confident about it, that this is what you are going to get from him, that this is how he plays his cricket, and we have to back him if he flops a couple of times. But if he's continuing with it, let him go with it. Talking about Mitchell Marsh, who is the Allen Border Medal winner as well for this year. He plays very aggressive one-day cricket. He plays very aggressive T20 cricket that he has to, and he's the captain over there. And even in Test cricket, why we called him a floater and a good number 6 batsman, because his strike rate is too good. He can change the complexion of the game once he comes off. And coming off doesn't mean that you have to come off once every 5-10 innings. It has to be pretty consistent. Yeah. Talking about hard hitters or playing blinders, we don't have those in cricket now. I think that concept is dying out. You need to have good batsmen who can play aggressive cricket. Now this is the world of De Villiers, the world of Mitchell Marshes. This is how you have to play. You have to play aggressive cricket. It's the baseball. It doesn't mean that you hit a couple of sixes and you can just go to the pavilion and have a cup of tea. You have to play aggressive cricket and play a long innings, whether it is one day, whether it is Test cricket or T20 cricket, and that is what Australia has worked out pretty well. And as Rizwan Bhai was talking about, most of the time this team is together. It's not like the first two players are playing in Pakistan, the third and fourth is playing in IPL, the fifth and sixth is playing Big Bash. It's not like that. Usually either they're playing the Sheffield Shield, like Wade. He's delaying his presence in IPL because there is Sheffield Shield final taking up. So they have their priorities pretty clear about it, and that is one of the reasons. See, you can win games, you can lose games, but for Australia, you know, they are not going to lose consistently. And this is what Australia is, because they have a winning culture in their team.
Absolutely. I think for our part of the world, even if we're not hitting those necessary sixes, we're still enjoying our cup of tea in the dressing room. So it is the other way around.
No, because we were naming players like Asif Ali and even Fakhar Zaman. I completely agree with K. Asif Bhai that playing 1-2 blinders and match winning innings doesn't give you a license to be a flop in other 5, 10, 8 innings. It has to be pretty consistent. Out of 10 innings, at least 5 or 6 should be countable.
Absolutely. Yeah, give us something to work with the equation as well. Some maths that we can calculate as well.
I would also like to talk about New Zealand team, if you can give me a moment.
Please.
See, New Zealand team, Kane Williamson, great batsman, great captain, everything. See, he's a very strong captain and he has a very consistent team. But he's someone of being here near about team. He doesn't win big tournaments. He won a Test championship. That is good because he's one of the New Zealand is probably the favorite team of a neutral, if not Pakistan. It is New Zealand, and they are the good boys. I think now they have to take a notch up in their performance. They have to be a bit more aggressive. They have to be a bit more extravagant about that. And if they keep going this way, it has to be near and near about. It's like they were the semi-finalists most of the times in big tournaments, but they don't win anything. And this is what it happened against Australia. See, Australia has their number. They have their code. They're always losing. This was a test match that they should have won it. We are talking too good about Australia. That is fine. But what about New Zealand? And this is not the first time, and this is not going to be the last time if they don't take approach.
Rizwan, we can talk about this model. We can talk about these players as well. But obviously, I think let's move to another part of the world when we talk about close by. India have dominated England. Now, England, of course, are the inventors of that baseball strategy, as they call it, and they tried to implement it. It has been largely successful, but you know, over here it probably backfired, or even if backfired is not in the word, I think there was not enough contributions when you talk about that format.
I think we have to realize that Test cricket is called Test cricket for a reason. It is an actual test of a batsman to stay at the wicket and make sure you grind runs in. So maybe the format has changed, maybe the playing style has changed, and the runs have started coming very, very quickly. And you can name it Baz ball or Rashid ball or Jameer ball. It doesn't really matter. If against quality bowlers you can't come up with the goods, the runs with which India has, baseball can only be successful for England at home or against teams like Pakistan when you're away, because we have no idea how to play a team. We have people like Shan Masood, who I think is a very talented player, but in Test matches he plays in a T20 format. In T20s he plays in a one-day format. In one days he plays in a Test match format. So our mentality is not right. Our coaching staff needs to work on that. We need to instill, manners or how to approach the game. And until and unless that happens, England played very well in the first Test match, but then India realized how to, counter them, and they came up with spinning tracks. They have Jadeja, they have Kuldeep Yadav,
yes.
they have Ashwin. They've got the batting strength. One should remember that they're the only team who have beaten Australia in the last 2 tours. So you can't take them lightly. They're the only team.
And that too when they probably lost the worst Test match of their
Yes,
cricketing
exactly. They
history.
got out for 36
Yes.
and then went on to win the series. So, that is called mentally strong approach. This is where we lack. This is where the other teams are lacking. Usman was absolutely correct when he says that, New Zealand need to go a notch up. But then again, where are they going to find the talent? They're a population of 5.5 million people. Half of them are women, so you're down to 2.5 million anyway, and then they're just first-class game. So, and their players are playing in the Olympics, in marathons, in decathlons, in rowing, in tennis. So even with that limited number of players in cricket, there are 5 first-class teams, so about 70, 80 first-class players. To win the Test championship is a very, very big achievement compared to Pakistan. I always say, if you remember, I've said that before as well, Pakistan and India should be in every World Cup final in every format, because there's no other game that we play. We just keep on playing cricket blindedly. We are blindfold. We're not playing on approaches. We're not looking at talent. We're just saying, go and play cricket. Our youngsters don't go play hockey. We are not competing in the Olympics. We are not playing in any sports or competing anywhere. So by default, we should be winning every tournament, either Pakistan, India, and the semi-final list should be Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Australia should nowhere be nearby, because they've got so many people playing every sport and competing in the world. It just shows that they're mentally strong and we are not. And we can keep fooling ourselves by saying, we are there or there, but we're not even in the top 3 in the world in any format. And every time we've become world number 1 in any format, it's just been for a couple of months, and then straight away we've gone back to 4 or 5.
K. Asif ball, if we can probably talk about that format as well. There have been many names to it now. But Asif, look, we discussed this before as well, that for me, I think England lost the trick when Ben Stokes was probably in the worst form of his life in this series. And Joe Root probably didn't play as many cricket pundits would have expected him to play against spin, particularly in Indian conditions.
Well, I think not only Joe Root or Ben Stokes, but talk about the rest of the batters as well. Zach Crawley, Duckett, Ollie Pope. Yes, Ollie Pope played a good innings in one match, but required consistency. In this match, Ashwin and Kuldeep Yadav, they were striking with the ball so nicely. It's not easy when we talk about that the players like Ashwin, who's playing Test cricket for a long time. Not only Test cricket, he plays each format. But I think it's not surprising for me that the English batters, they're struggling against the spinners. The most important thing is that they were not able to play Jasprit Bumrah and Siraj. That is an important thing, because and Siraj, if you see, is the movement on both of the side, bringing in and bringing out. What does it mean? That he's working his abilities so nicely. Once again, the coaching department and the first class cricket, their Ranji Trophy, their bases are really strong, Ahmed, and that's the difference. And
we talked about the top performers.
Yes,
they're still not playing in the Indian team right now.
You had given the details in the last show as well, that their top performers, they're still waiting. They would have to play maybe 2-3 seasons more, and they would have to prove themselves in upcoming seasons as well. So right now, the Indian and Australians, they're performing so well. Kuldeep Yadav, not only once again with the ball, with the bat as well. He scored 30 important and crucial runs, and that's why their team have won this match with an innings. And everyone is understanding the role. Jadeja is there, and once again, Jaiswal, player of the series. Why? He is so good with his technique. He understands that how to play against James Anderson and how to face the Saqib Bashir. The difference between these two, that the James Anderson, top-notch fast bowler, and Saqib Bashir, an emerging spinner. He bowled really nicely, took Pfeiffer. But I think strongly agree with the Rizwan Bhai that when you're not prioritizing yourself, that are you a Test cricketer or you're a specialist wide ball player, then you won't be able to produce good results.
Absolutely. Usman, interestingly, because we talk about Ashwin, Jadeja and now Yadav, I mean, it's still, I'm in awe that we still, if you look at the back end of it, they still have the options of playing Akshar Patel once in a while. Washington Sundar is there as well. So I mean, those options are never ending for India when you talk about that bench strength. But they've been able, I mean, after that first test match, they probably had that wake up call that we're going to be humiliated if we don't make a comeback, and they probably did it the way they should have.
Yeah, we are talking a lot about baseball that this did not work. I think the one test that England won was because of baseball. Otherwise, they would have lost that test match as well. Talking about India's resources, they have been very consistent and very clear about how they want their pitches to be for home test matches, and that is what they are carrying out with. And they have the resources for that. They have their batsmen who can face such kind of bowling, and they have the bowlers who can be lethal on these kind of pitches. And that is a code that has been uncoded, that many teams have been failing to uncode. Only a team like Pakistan, when they used to tour India, it would have become extremely competitive. Otherwise, none of the teams are showing how to play good quality spin bowling. Sri Lanka, for that matter, has been sliding down. Bangladesh is not that competitive. Pakistan don't tour India. So the teams that tour India actually from the SENA countries, they are not, the playing good spin bowling is not their bread and butter. And that is one of the reasons that India has been hugely successful in their home, because they have a code which cannot be uncoded by these kind of teams yet. And talking about other teams like England or Australia, Australia don't have the kind of bouncy pitches anymore. So India won 2 good test series against them. And talking about England, when the ball is seeming swinging in the winter, I think India is also caught napping on those kind of pitches. So home advantages always count. India is a bunny to England. In England, England was a bunny to India in Indian conditions, like most other teams.
But particularly, Usman, do you agree that one factor that could have changed things around for England had to be Ben Stokes?
Ben Stokes has been a huge letdown. Probably he's an excellent captain and excellent player as well. But without bowling, he was 50% of himself. But even in his batting, he couldn't fire. Probably he was batting one position too low. He should have been batted a bit earlier. But that is how it was. Apart from, I think, Zach Crawley, he always used to give good starts. But Duckett, Root, Stokes, and you name Bairstow, Bairstow at one time was actually very embarrassing the way he was playing in India. And all in all, we can say that the baseball did not actually click in India, just because the quality of bowling and the kind of pitches that they had to face, they did not have plan C or D.
Even if they did, I think India probably had more tricks up their sleeves as well. But Rizwan, this is a very particular point that we figured this out as well, that one of the prime reasons for Ben Stokes' success in English cricket was that he had that ability to bowl as well. So people were actually relating it back to Flintoff's days, what he used to do, and now. But since that ability has been taken away, largely because now you got to produce results with the bat. You're a captain as well, and that's where the struggle probably comes in.
Had it been somebody replacing Ben Stokes, then it probably would not have really mattered. But when you're accustomed to somebody knowing that he comes at 6, gets you 30, 40, and then bowls you 18 overs, and he doesn't do that, so you're a bowler short. And if you're a bowler short, then then you have lack of resources as well. Then you have to shuffle it around a bit more, and it's always going to be a liability. But I just wanted to notice another point, that how easily players in England or New Zealand or Australia and India, fit in, the new players who come in the very first test match. We don't realize that they're brand new, because they've played so much first class cricket.
Almost
they've played
15,
18,
games,
20, 30 first class games, or at least have had 2 or 3 seasons. Here we pick somebody from IPL or PSL, and suddenly he's thrusted into the test match or the one-day team, and there's so much pressure that he can't handle it, because franchise cricket is nothing compared to what international cricket is.
I mean, if you talk about Jaiswal as well, just at 22 years of age, he's played 24 first-class games, 32 List A games. Sarfaraz himself, I think, has been through that grind of the domestic structure, and he's been neglected even to a point where there was ruckus created that why he's not being selected.
And interestingly, if you notice in their first class structure, there are about 10 other 12-15 players who've got first class averages of 50 plus.
Yes.
We haven't got any in our first class structure who's played 2 seasons in averaging 50 plus, and that does not mean that there are batting tracks and you don't have, because Kuldeep has come in, Siraj has come in, so many fast bowlers and spinners keep coming in. Occasional Patel comes in as well. Aksar, occasionally he plays for the team. Then there's so many options.
Yeah.
That means that
Absolutely.
in first class cricket, that system is working.
The numbers are there, because we talked about this the other day. Like I said, I mean, the top 3 averages, if I can just talk about them quickly before we say goodbye on the Ranji Trophy have been 78, 75 and 83. These are top 3 performers so far in the Ranji Trophy. And the numbers are astonishing. 939 runs in 6 games for Chopra for Mizoram. Bhui for Andhra Pradesh, he scored 902 runs in 8 games. And I think the most interesting one is 7 games and 833 runs for Sachin Baby at an astonishing average of 83. I mean, these are, and all, if you talk about all 3 of them, they're less than 25 years of age. So, I mean, that just gives you the results. And like I said, that's probably one of the reasons, because they're into their 7th to 10th first class games. And trust me, before they make their debut, they would have been playing at least 20 to 25. That's the way things are going
for
to be.
that as well. They are paid heavily in domestic cricket.
Yeah, but
Whereas in
finances are
Pakistan,
always
you
there.
don't
We talked
you
about
don't
that
have
as well.
much, and that is one of the reasons why people don't want to play too much domestic cricket. And if they have hello high somewhere, they can just sneak into the Pakistan national team because you're not going to get huge amount of money, and your senior players also don't want to coach over there. But in Indian domestic cricket, you're paid pretty handsomely, so you can make a career out of it.
Absolutely.
But Usman, sorry, I disagree. It was not the case 20 years ago. Their first class structure improved
that is
because their quality of cricket improved. They started winning trophies left, right, and center. They started beating test teams away from home, and that's how your you got money in. And after this big
IPL.
three sort of thing, IPL has been a big format, game changer for them, and we were too late in that. Otherwise, before that, their first class structure was also not playing, playing. So you start winning, you start beating everybody, money will automatically come in.
I agree, and there might be a lot of factors attached to it, but I think that culture of the Indian cricket team overseas greatly changed because of Sourav Ganguly. So I would really put the credit there. I think he really uplifted that team, and obviously then you got to talk about the results they've achieved. But Usman, Rizwan and Asif, thank you very much for joining us. That wraps up Sports Extra. It's goodbye for now.